Well, hello, welcome into the freshest episode of the Chi Time Collective. My name is Clara Apollo, and I am a Qigong teacher and an energy explorer, shall we say. And here on the Chi Time Collective, we're looking at aspects of why we need to really be aware of where we're placing our energy, because your energy matters. And so I have with me on this call two of my super top co-presenters. I've got Katie Brockhurst and Sarah Lloyd with me. So welcome them back into the Chi Time Collective. Oh, yeah. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having us on today.
Hi. Well, we thought we'd drop in together because before this collective show that we're doing ensemble, we've been taking turns in producing separate shows around the theme of energy. So, I mean, Katie, do you want to just give a little overview as to what your tack is on the energy matters?
Of course, yes. Mine's all about digital chi and how do we manage our energy when we're using technology all the time. We don't understand what it's actually doing to us on the physiological and energetic levels. So yeah, my show's a deep dive into how we manage that and understand that more.
Oh, brilliant. And yeah, I think that also spills out into other aspects of our lives too, which we will be dipping into very shortly. But Sarah, what are you bringing to the Chi Time Collective? What's your angle on the energy matters topic?
So I guess I take a little bit of what Katie talks around and amplify that through the power of storytelling. So it's about the energy that we're putting out there, the stories that we're sharing, and actually the unpicking of stories that we're being fed as well. So that's kind of my deep dive into what I cover on my show.
Yes, indeed. Well, and on this collective that we've got here, I mean, I can feel there's an excitement that we have because we all know each other outside of this as well. So it feels like there is a sisterhood growing through what we're sharing here and what we're learning from one another and how we're synergizing the info. And what's quite interesting, what I'd love to pick up on is that we were all at Mind, Body, Spirit Festival last weekend. And on the last episode of Chi Time, we had Kwali Kamara in talking about what it was like for her as a mum, bringing her kids to work on the Sunday, curating the ceremony space and also managing your energy going into those places. So I think this is quite a rich topic because I don't know about you, but I hadn't been in a place that big for 2.5 years. So yeah, who wants to go first? Who wants to speak into their experience of MBS? Go, Katie.
Yeah, so I was speaking at MBS, and it was the first time I'd done something like that in a few years. At first, the energy was super exciting. Like I was just like, there's people that I know, people I hadn't seen for years, that space. I obviously had some nervous energy bubbling through me because I was going to be speaking, but it was a really interesting experience for me because it was wonderful and it was not so wonderful, sort of in equal measure, because I was speaking in the wellbeing studio. And that was like right in the center of the room, and it didn't have a roof on it. It was like perspex round the side. There was a drumming workshop going on in the tent behind. And so actually like the energy was really hard for me to hold. I'm usually like with a workshop, I get quite, it's a very interactive, and I didn't feel like I could hit, didn't feel like I could hold the energy. It was really interesting. So after that, like my energy then was quite, I found it all then quite overwhelming and quite heavy, and had to then sort of get outside and go lay in the grass in the park.
Well done.
And just like look at the sky.
Back to nature.
Yeah, there was just so many energies going on. Like you said, at first super exciting, and then it became overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. What about you, Sarah?
I mean, Katie and I have talked about this off air, but my old stomping ground used to be promoting and being at those exhibitions bobbing about between stands, promoting myself, promoting other people. So it was very pushy energy. And what I found, and thank goodness I was there with, so I met with Katie, Nicola Humber, who I'm probably going to bring on the show at a later date, and my other PR lady that I work with, Laura. And I think if I hadn't have been in that little cocoon of energy, it would have been a really different experience. And I mean, I walked in the room and I immediately went into old sales patter. It was really strange to witness because it just kind of came out. And I didn't, it was like, oh, who is that person? Where did she come from? It's like, it was a really bizarre, I felt very split, but it was lovely to be at the show. It was lovely to see people, but I think equally it felt actually really old energy. It feels like it's not moved on with where the world has moved. It felt very 2 years ago. It was bizarre. It was like a time warp for me.
Right, because that's interesting as to what Kwali was saying last week. That she felt that it felt like there was a new energy there because there were fewer of the regulars, weren't there? So there was new energy coming in. But I still get what you were saying about the setup and this all this space above. Because I landed 15 minutes before. Thank you, Katie, gave me a great heads up of it's a bit chaotic, it's going to be drumming, and I was offering some Qigong in the ceremony space. Now, last time I'd been in there, we'd been in a yurt, but of course there wasn't that. There was to the ceiling, but that amazing ceiling, face it, I mean, it's that as I call it, like a massive giant conservatory at Olympia. But at the same time, all this contagion, using one of your words there, Katie, and how can you hold a space? I had to have a handheld microphone, and when it comes to Qigong, you're demonstrating, and I couldn't even hear the people when I was asking them questions. I had to adapt everything that I thought I was going to do for what that actually was. So there was no heads up apart from you, so you didn't know what you were stepping into, and I think that also skews our energy when we're suddenly off guard. It's like, I didn't know what to expect. What do I do now? Or kind of on the back foot a bit.
I felt as I say that it felt dated. I agree. There was a different kind of person coming through the door that was exploring, which I think is great because newer people are picking up on this. But what I felt, and obviously I was sitting in Katie's session, is I think a lot more of us are trying to be more interactive and more inclusive in what we're teaching and guiding, but there's still these spaces are set up for a guru to stand up and talk. And I feel like that is where the shift is happening. We're moving into these more inclusive kind of held spaces, and that setup didn't allow for that, perhaps.
I know, and it was interesting for me because I'd actually put in my copy for the workshop, this will be an interactive workshop where I'm going to hold space for your relate. And of course I just wasn't, like I said, I couldn't, there was so much energy because of being in the center of the room without a roof, and I couldn't hold the space. And I hadn't had the heads up to then be able to adapt into it. So it just felt uncomfortable in the body. But I think it was one of my friends came to join me in the afternoon, and she'd been on her own for an hour beforehand. And she just said she found it, she'd come in the room and everyone was trying to sell to her straight away. But again, I think that's just everyone's eagerness. That's not a criticism. I love MBS, and I don't want this to come across as that I don't, because I absolutely do. But I think everyone was in a new space for the first time in 2 years. Oh, there are people that we can talk to. And of course, like you say, emotional contagion. I think, I think just by the end of the day, it was just like,
I know. I was glad that I was on the coach. Actually, I didn't have to drive because I was whacked. But it was a combination of good and tricky. Yes. It was like, right, that is enough. Now I really have to self-care, and looking at self-care. And then in the second half of this episode of the Chi Time Collective with Katie, Sarah and myself here on UK Health Radio. We're going to be looking more into the different ways that we mother ourselves and what mothering means. So I think self-care is a big aspect of that, you know, unpicking what self-care is. But just going to come back to this topic of interactive with the audience, because, you know, we don't know what the effect of what we're offering people is unless we give them a chance to be able to speak a fragment of their story to come through. And that's what happened in the Qigong that I offered. I mean, okay, it's the shaking. I've got our hands up. Once you get people shaking and grounding and sounding, and I do turn the Chi disco track on, which I might play you on one episode of Chi Time, because it frees people up. But then when they land and there's that space, then the story can come through. And if they're locking into that and they haven't got a space to be able to speak it at that time, then that stays in. Do you know what I mean? I think there's that room for expression was so important.
I think also, like, just to add to that, you can go and have an amazing massage and then you can go and have an amazing drumming session, but there's no integration piece. That is kind of, for me, that's, I think with you guys of conscious energy workers, so you went outside, grounded yourself in the park, but there's so many people that leave those spaces that are still like, whoa. Yes. And in that also concerns me a little bit because of the integration that people are not going through when they've left a space like that, when it's so high.
If you think you've got all those crystals, you've got all of the conscious energy workers in the space, and then there's always a lot of healing work that's going on in those spaces as well. I mean, it is an energetic soup.
It is
like no other.
It is. So maybe we could get a little tips for how to manage going into well-being festivals, you know, like how to manage your chi, because that's actually what I did on the night before. It was a full moon, and I knew that my sunset practice down by the river, oh my God, it was so gorgeous. And then the moon came up and it was rosy, and I had my crystals with me that I was going to bring. And I thought, this is me preparing my energy for going into something that I don't know, because I haven't been there for a while. And I was so glad that I did that, because when I was there after I'd run the first session, I was able to go backstage, a little bit warehousey, but anyway, out of the soup, well, a little bit away from, and then tune back into what I'd already set up within me, redid the clearing, redid the grounding, did my tapping and all that kind of sounding, and just thought, I have to do this. I have to do this now. It was like it's like a safety factor, you know. I don't know if you find that, like you said, Katie, you needed to go outside and lie on the ground, look at this, because you're a nature lover as well, aren't you? And that power of Mother Nature and the support that she gives us, always there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took myself away from our little circle as well for half an hour before my session as well, just to center into myself, and I'd sort of got into a backstagey bit, and just where it was a bit quieter and I could just be, so I could get myself into the right space to then share with others. But I didn't protect myself well enough going in. Right. I wish I'd had a little practice like you'd done, and that would have served me well.
I think even just the journey up to London, for me, it was, it probably started the minute I got on the train. I hadn't considered it was full moon, and I hadn't considered that actually I was going to be around people.
So it's almost like we've come out of lockdown, haven't we? Or, I mean, I know it's been a while now, but it's almost like there is those reintegrations into these spaces with people, and I don't think we've sort of all gone back to normal, and it's like all of that's been forgotten and now we're all back. There's a bit of that in my own psyche, in my own being, and actually be like, we haven't done that in quite a long time. So really honoring that for us all as well. Because
we are all in work in progress, and I was still absolutely whacked out by the end of it. And Pixie Pete did his a dance medicine, and Kwali did a gong bath, and I was so glad to lie on the ground. It was like I was done. It was just like, whoo. My system was just really saying, you need to stop now. And in a place like that, where do you go to be able to lie down and be in the chill out zone? I think there is a little space in the middle that has some cushions and stuff, but you're still very much in the energy of it. But as Kwali was saying also, it did feel excuse me, more of a spacious place, because of not the height of it, but there was less of the bustle, wasn't there? So it's, well, okay, maybe enough bustle. Katie's going, oh, actually quite a lot of bustle.
Quite a lot of bustle.
So it felt okay up till lunchtime, and then it just kind of just went
crescendo.
Yeah, that's how I was. It was the afternoon, but it was interesting because when I was first there, I was going, let's get a stand next year. Let's do it. I loved it. I was like so happy in the space, and seeing old friends. Like, it's so funny. Sarah was saying like that old part of her came out. It was definitely an old part of me as well that was like bouncing around. I had a bag full of books, like networking and seeing people, but I found that quite fun though. I liked that.
And it's quite heartening, isn't it, being back in Soul Tribe in a way. We recognise the arena, and it's like, oh, I'm back. This is happening again. Oh, thank goodness they've made it happen again. Yeah. And yet, within that, how is that managed? So, but as you say, we all love MBS. It really is a great festival.
Love
we're just being honest about how, as energy workers and empaths, how that has affected us. And there was one lass on a stall, I won't name her, but she felt that there was some psychic activity going on, that she then needed to do some work on herself. And it was like, I think there is that. We do need to self-care and recognize if we're feeling a bit, we need to do something about it. So we're going to go to a tune in a second, and I was thinking which tune should we play, because we're going to come back after this and chat more about self-care and how the mothering aspect, what that really means to us. And I was thinking, well, why don't I share the track that seemed to really touch people when I delivered my main stage. I'm going to call it a Chi performance because it was hilarious. That's all I can say. The lovely Donna Easton she was the compere there, the MC, and I'd only just met her, and she was brilliant. She's a joyologist. And so I was like vibing off her and off the audience, making them laugh, but also getting them into stillness in all the chaos. And then one of the things I wanted to share was my use of mantra with movement, because I really feel that like Qigong is like a moving mantra. And when you actually bring in a mantra with that movement, something gets truly embodied. And my go-to favorite at the moment is Deva Premal and Mitten's Gayatri Mantra, with that really cool backbeat going on. So I wanted to share it with you here on the Chi Time Collective on UK Health Radio. So we will be back with Katie and Sarah after this gorgeous tune. Enjoy. Oh, welcome back into the Chi Time Collective with me, Clara Apollo, here on UK Health Radio. And I'm here with Katie Brockhurst and Sarah Lloyd, my co-presenters on the show. We're all here together. Yay! Because it's the end of the month. We had a 5th week and we're like, let's do a thing. And this is the thing. Before the break, we heard from Deva Premal and Mitten, that gorgeous Gayatri Mantra, because we were chatting about our reflections on the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in London that was such a joy to be at last again. And so now we're going to move into how we self-care even more, into that whole topic of mothering. And I think Sarah wanted to share with us something about how she mothered herself well by grounding at the show. Go on. Oh, this is going to be funny.
It was actually post-show. So, so it was full moon as well. And, I mean, I'd arranged to meet up with a group of friends, school mums, funnily enough. And we went, we had a few drinks in the back garden. So we were out in the ground barefoot and decided in our infinite wisdom to go for a walk in the woods in the dark, and we came across some cows, and I just find it highly amusing that the cow is actually sacred to Mother Goddess Bridget and is actually connected to the motherhood nurturing energy. And I just thought, well, that's kind of fun, because we were, you know, we'd had a few sarsaparillas and we were venturing into the full moon territory, and there were cows hanging out in the field, and it just felt kind of good. I feel like I left all that energy behind. It was very interesting, but also a bit like, my husband's like, why were you looking for cows? Like, well, kind of, that's what you do. Come across a cow.
Ground yourself with a cow, why not? And as you were saying that, I could hear the moo, that moo sound, and that's a sound that connects us down to the Great Mother, isn't it? It really oos us in. And I love that, how when we are really got our feet on true planet surface and we do some oohing or some mooing, that we reverberate that into her as well. And so there's a whole sing-song going on with us and the Great Mother, which I love. But yeah, this topic of mothering, that is, let's see, Sarah has fired up a massive project called Wake Up Mother, and which I'm part of, and Katie can't help herself but being included. And what's coming right now, I'm going to have to just spill the beans, aren't I? Because Mama Chi is not happy. Mama Chi has got a rage on. Mama Chi is pissed off. Sorry, is that swearing? Sorry, UK Health Radio. Don't know. Mama Chi is cheesed off, because she's given herself away too much. She's given her voice away. She's given her chi away, and she now wants to reclaim it, because it's not okay. And it's all this thing about just keep giving. It'll eventually come back to you. Well, you know, I'm friggin' 60 now. Sorry, did I just I just outed my age on air. Hey ho, whatevs. And it's time, you know, do we wait around for what is due, or do we go, you know what, I'm not going to be giving away all that anymore. I'm going to give to me, and give to me first. We talk about this, don't we? Giving to me first, mothering myself, sistering myself, husbanding myself, brothering myself, parenting myself. I mean, you see, I'm feeling very passionate about this. So I was wondering if you wanted to pick up on any of that Mama Chi stuff.
I'm trying not to laugh. I'm laughing with, not at, just to say, because obviously at the moment we're in the Easter holidays and I have my two girls at home. So yes. I feel the Mama Chi rage. In fact, it's kind of, there's an expectation, isn't there, that we do everything. And even to the point where if I need the day to myself, I still need to get everything prepared so I can have the day to myself. So you're still doing, I mean, and it's awful that I say it's the work, but you're still preparing and nurturing and providing all of that energy before you go off and take that time for yourself. So I do find sometimes that's quite frustrating.
Yeah, I also love that you're using humor, because that is something that's been helping me recently, just laughing at it. I mean, it's slightly hysterical sometimes, I must admit, but it's still lightning. It's like, do I go down with this, or do I just go, this is so ridiculous? And I think ridiculous was a word that my dear friend who's working in London at the moment, who's a costume designer, and she's got her family is in Totnes, and she's having to travel to London, and it's so disorganized. The whole thing is so disorganized. It's ridiculous. I'm just having to laugh like slightly manically at how friggin' ridiculous it is. And so I think that helps us to not get too stodgy with this pressure of how to give. And I know that's something that Katie is super great at, her boundaries. I learned so much from you on this, about how much you're prepared to give. And I think that, that's really good.
And it's interesting because I believe in being of service and being in and of. Yes. And it's even with my new book that came out last week, I kept hearing like spirit, intuition, however it's been like, you just got to keep gifting and give. And there's a bit of me that's like, but it's just like, and it will come back to you. It might not come back to you in the same. So there's an element of that giving away of energy, of creativity. but there's the boundary.
Yeah.
And so that's when it's like, okay, my body always tells me where that boundary is, like, because if it feels expansive in the give, and it's just like, yeah, like I know this is just lovely, but when it starts to be like, you know, or you start to contract, that expand, contract, or start to resent, or start to, that for me is that, okay, right, I've given too much, now I need to go kajunk.
Yeah, you're describing exactly where I get to. It's kind of, I feel like, you know, with the lockdown, you know, where I had everything to juggle, the work, business, children, husband. I got quite good at the boundary setting and understanding my limits, but I feel like now things are back to normal, inverted commas. It's like we're relearning what those boundaries look like. And I actually feel like I don't know how I did a full-time job. I'll be completely honest with you, because I have to have a lie down after a little while. It's kind of, I don't know whether the energy is different, or there's a shift in me, but I do feel like I almost, like we were saying, like the Mind Body Spirit show got to lunchtime and we were kind of like, oh, this is too much. It's almost like, I feel like I've realized I can handle my children for about 4 hours now, and then I need to go and take myself into the garden or go and do something else to reset myself. So it's really interesting that you say that it's that reset.
It is.
But understand it, like I used to be able to do a whole day, now it's 4 hours. And I think it's noticing, and obviously your cycle as well plays a massive part of that too.
I think that's the same with clients, with collaborations. It's like there's only so much capacity. So then it's up to us to see where our capacity is, what our capacity is, where our limit to our capacity is, and then be really clear in our communication of being like, right, I've reached my capacity, or beforehand, this is how much capacity I have, and then we're done. So it's like boundaries and pieces, but that is that self-care.
It is. And we've all got old patterns of, I'll just do it, it's easier if I just do it. And that whole, like, things dovetail in, they slide in and out, and it's like I've been breathing space into the dovetails, you know, like oh, there is space in here. I just need to go to the bathroom and breathe into that. And then sort of suggest that to anyone. If they think they haven't got any time and space, spend another couple of minutes in the bathroom. Give yourself some breathing space to ground, to truly use that natural process that is always there with you. And I think the word that came up for me when you were talking about sharing there, Katie, that expansion, was to trust. I mean, I do trust. I must increase my trust, indeed. All of us. But with that expansive energy, but to know that just like the in-breath is expansive, it also needs to have time to come back in again. So you're not failing because you can't be out and buoyant all the time. You're actually noticing that natural breath of life that runs through absolutely everything you do. So that feeling of self-nurture is the downtime. It's the going back in. It's the filling the well, the expansion we're doing.
It's the ocean as well. It's the wave. I see things in waves. Beautiful. Like even with this book, it's like it's going out in waves, and then I draw back in and then back out again. So it's gentle on the nervous system as well, because we energetically feel it as we're also, as even coming on and doing a show like this. It's like we're out. And so again, it's then like coming back in again. So there's this John Parkin, who you had on the show,
it's a chi move.
Talked about the concertina,
totally,
it's a classic. Me, it's that,
and that runs through everything. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see Katie do those gesticulations. If you're listening to it on our podcast or on UK Health Radio, then we've got our palms sort of come together and then they expand apart. It's a classic La Chi Qigong, but it's also just feels like a completely natural movement, doesn't it? That whole concertina, and then you can play with the chi between your hands and get into a little funky swirl and go into a dance, even if you feel like it, or a little bit of swaying. But anything that is going to help soothe your nervous system is going to help everything else in your body, right? It's going to help you de-stress and self-kind. So Yes, mothering, interesting topic, eh? Self-care, all those aspects of mothering, but also, for people that aren't actually mothers of children. I mean, I have a grown-up son, so I'm not a mother in a sense of a small kids like you have, Sarah. And Katie births books, and other amazing creations too. So just wondered if you wanted to say anything about the different aspects of mothering that we can consider in our lives right now. Go, Katie.
Oh, I thought I was looking to Sarah then. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like for me, having not had children, and I'm in my mid-40s now, so it's unlike, I've kind of coming to terms with the fact that it's unlikely to happen, which is a sad thing for me. I've had some grief around that, even recently. But it was interesting. A friend got in touch with me with this third book being out. He's got a 13-year-old daughter. And he was like, please, can you package up all of your books and send them? Because I just really, and it was suddenly like this whole light bulb went off inside of me that I'd never even considered about writing for teenage girls. And it was suddenly like, oh, I can be mom. Like I can help, that bit of me that I would love to be able to, help young people, support young people. I was like, oh, I can do that. And so it's like opened up this whole doorway inside of me of all the ways that I can be mum.
I think that's definitely something that's coming up in this project that I felt called to start. And what I'm seeing is that it's so multifaceted, the word mother. It's not just, and society's like squeezed it into this little pigeonhole of person that gives birth to a human. But it's the space holding. So Katie, you hold my space regularly. It's the space holding of your friends as you grow up. It's the nurturing of the generations above and below you. It's the creation of these amazing spaces, this collective, these books we're birthing, these businesses we're creating, these clients that I'm nurturing. It's kind of anything that where you're involved in a transformation of some description or birth of something. I feel like that it's just so big, I just can't even comprehend. It's so big, and the conversations we've been having in the group have been just like, oh, I'm getting shivers up my spine. It's just mad. Like the people that are involved, it's, we haven't just got a bunch of women that have had babies and they're talking about their births. They're talking about the fact that they're choosing to not have children, the fact that they're, have wards, are teaching children. There's so many different ways that we can skin this cat, if you like.
Yeah. And that's so great. It's so great to hear though that we can be mothers in different ways, because I really thought, right, I haven't had a child, therefore I don't get to be that mother energy. And I felt like I'd missed the whole archetype out. I'd gone from maiden to crone and missed out mother, and that just didn't feel right.
You're in it now. You're right in it now.
I was like, oh yeah, I'm in it.
I actually was quite resentful being a single mum, that I didn't get much time to do the mothering side because I had to be mum and dad. And I think that's it's coming out more now with nurturing these kind of things like our Chi Time Collective, but also the Qigong that I share, and the other ways of being a creative nurturer, because this is the essence of Mother Nature. She's a creative nurturer. That's what she does. And I've just been watching my trees going outside, and just I'm always marvel at just that the power of nature just knows how to grow. You just need to give it good roots, good water, good food from the sun, and all of that. It's a natural process for us to nurture. So if we don't have an opportunity to do that in our life, and I bet guys feel that as well, men need this too, to be able to access and honor the nurturing capacity that we have. And I was reminded as you were speaking around the different components of mothering or nurturing, that it does take a village to raise a child. It's not just one person, and we all have different things to share, and I think that's coming back more and more now that we're stepping into the power of our communities in all the ways around. So Brilliant. Well, look, we are coming towards the end of this episode of the Chi Time Collective here on UK Health Radio, on podcast and on YouTube. And I'm here with Katie Brockhurst and Sarah Lloyd. And who is up next? I was going to say, before we go to that, and you can listen again on demand here on UK Health Radio, or as I said, on our podcast channel, Chi Time, or on Chi Time TV, because this is a video. So if you're listening to this and you'd like to see us in action, facial gesticulations and everything, then hop over to Chi Time TV. But anyway, yes, so because we do a show a week each, and this is the end of April, who's next up? I think it's you, Sarah, isn't it? So what have you got lined up for us next?
I think it is. There's a lot of threads I want to take from today's conversation and explore. So it will be a continuation of probably some of these discussions. So.
Okay, great. Good. We look forward to that. And when this show first goes out, it's going to be on April the 30th, which is the Tai Chi Qigong. No, which is the World Tai Chi Qigong Day, which happens every year, organised by Bill Douglas, who has been on the show before. So anybody who does any kind of Qi practice, just get it on, because there's going to be a whole wave of this happening around the planet this Saturday. And then, of course, straight after that is Beltane. And, you know, Beltane is a wonderful festival of fecundity. And Katie's already grooving and moving and going, yeah, I'll be dancing to that. So, and if we got something that we'd just like to say, each of us, around the Beltane Festival, or the 1st of May, or I'm
super excited for Beltane. I live in Glastonbury, and we haven't had Beltane, a proper Beltane, for 2 years, and it is the most magical, amazing experience in this town. So the streets will be full of green men and goddesses carrying the maypole and dancing and communing, and I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to be there too, because I haven't experienced that either, and I'm just down the road anyway.
Oh, you've got to. It's incredible. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So it's getting out, be in nature, wear green, gold, whatever you feel like, flowers in your hair, and jump over some fires. What about you, Sarah? Got any thoughts on Beltane?
Oh gosh, loads. But not long enough to talk about it. I visited Sherwood recently, so I had my early Beltane fix with the maypole and the energy of the great oaks. So yeah, totally loving being in the woods and being out in the nature. So
and do you get your kids involved with that kind of thing?
We do. We get some old flowers and create natural mandalas on the floor and fairy crowns, you name it. We're gonna go full in.
Well, I mean, it's a Sunday as well, isn't it? So it's a great sort of, I always think that Sundays, I've reclaimed Sundays to be sacred, because I just have to have a day a week where I don't go online and I don't have to create content, and I'm just like, so to have Beltane on a sacred Sunday is like, whoa,
lovely, amazing.
It's really lovely. So, well, thank you all for being here together. This feels like an inaugural pioneering episode of the Chi Time Collective.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're so welcome. We are grinning a lot. There's a lot of good chi here, and I thank you all for what you bring to this collective too. Just adore you all. So go well, my friends, and thanks to our lovely listeners and viewers as well. Do drop us any messages, info@ukhealthradio.com, or well, you can find us all online, can't you? I mean, Katie, your social media for a new age. Yeah. And what are you Indigo PR?
Indigo Soul.
Thank you.
PR, yeah.
Yeah, but you can check it. You can find us. It's really easy to find people these days and all those socials. So thank you so much for listening or watching. If you're on UK Health Radio, I'm going to play you a tune now called Mother, I Feel You. And then this is a version by Budi Seibert. Don't know if I've pronounced that right. You'll get a little glimpse of that on podcast, and you won't get it on YouTube, but I will put a link in the text below. I could also put a link to everybody's places to go to find out more. So thank you so much for listening and watching. Keep your chi up, my friends, and go well. Happy Beltane.